Hey there, fellow travelers. Welcome to the Tolkien Road, episode 310. Greta.
John.
Hello.
Hello. Wait. That's like a Twin Peaks thing.
Yeah. Why not? I was thinking about,
There's no volcano blowing.
Remember I told you about that, I told you about like a couple years ago how that guy made like a 4-hour Twin Peaks explainer video on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I watched it back then and I watched it again this week and I just realized how good it is and how and it made me realize like what an amazing show Twin Peaks is. And I was watching that. And I'm not saying that the Rings of Power should be because that wouldn't really work, but should be like Twin Peaks because Twin Peaks is really weird, but a little weirder, anyway, so we're just starting off, so I won't get too far into it, but anyway, I just thought it'd be funny.
Connection.
Yeah, I just thought it'd be funny to be like, hello,
Yeah.
It's such a deep show. It's such a deep show, Twin Peaks, and it's like, wow,
yeah, it is deep. Yeah.
I know it's maybe a little too deep for you sometimes, or a little too crazy, but anyway, let's move on. It's not about Twin Peaks. All right. In this episode, we will be discussing episode 7 of The Rings of Power, The Eye. Did you know that was the name of the episode, The Eye?
I did know that because when I saw it at first, I thought I somehow put an R in there and I thought it said ire.
The
and
ire?
I was like, ooh, the ire. And then I didn't know what that was. And I looked at it again. I was like, oh, the eye.
Yeah.
And then it opened. I was like, oh, like what? Yeah. I don't know.
All right. Well, before we get started, we'd like to give a double up air 5 to our patrons. 3, 2, 1.
Whoopshed.
Nice.
That was good. That's pretty good.
Special thanks to this episode's executive producers, John R., Kaitlyn of Tea with Tolkien, Jacob Lockham, John H., and Scotchy Bobo. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/TolkienRoad. Your financial support helps the Tolkien Road to keep on evering on and land you some cool perks along the way. Learn more at patreon.com/TolkienRoad. YouTube, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what's on your mind in the comments below. All right. So, no rant, no monologue to start this episode off. I'm going to go right into the episode.
Cool.
All right. So, background. This one was, again, directed by Charlotte Brandstrom, who directed the last episode.
I know. When I saw that, I was like, dang it.
Well, directors, it's not always contingent upon the director. It can be, there's, especially on a TV show, like a director directs a particular episode and has, is like governed by the producers and all this kind of thing. So I try not to read anything into the fact that a certain person writes or directs this unless I feel like it's a strong positive, right? Like unless I feel like it's like, oh man, that last episode they did was amazing, right? Then I'm like, okay, cool. Or like the writer, it's like, or a writer has like 2 or 3, and it's like all 3 of those have been awesome episodes, right?
Yeah. Okay.
There's just, and that's well, let me say it's also written by Jason Cahill, who co-wrote episode 3 at Adar, right? Adar. How are we saying it this week? Adar. Let's just say Adar.
I thought we said Adar in the last one.
We did, but I feel like it should be Adar.
Adar.
Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
Adar. Do your best.
Adar.
On this question of like writers' rooms and TV shows and how they're created and all this kind of stuff, not that I really know anything about that because I've never been part of a writer's room or anything like that. But it is an interesting dynamic in the sense that this show is being created in a very different way than the Lord of the Rings or Hobbit films were, right? In that there's a lot of executive producers on this, right? And there's a lot of writers and there's a lot of directors, and one director will direct one episode and another director will direct another episode. And then there's a lot of writers and that, some write these episodes, some collaborate on this episode, but then they do this one by themselves. And I don't know what all that means. And I don't know what how that actually plays out, because it's possible that really they're writing them all together and directing certain things together. But they're like, okay, you get credit for this one, right? They kind of divvy up credit, because, for example, like in the world of songwriting, right? Like a couple of the most famous songwriting, so let's take like Lennon McCartney with the Beatles, right? They always got credited together, right? But Lennon might have written this song all by himself, and McCartney might have written this song all by himself, but they had kind of a deal worked out from the very beginning that, that this was how they were going to attribute credit to their various songs, right? Another one, a lesser known group, but a favorite of mine is The Band, and most of their songs were written by this guy named Robbie Robertson, and or at least they're attributed to Robbie Robertson, but some of the members of the group have argued later that, hey, well, we contributed a lot to this particular song, but we don't have any of the actual songwriting credits for it, right? So anyway, all I'm trying to say with this is that this creative process, when you're working with a larger group of people, working on something that's a long-term project, it can be, it's not always as clear as it's laid out in the, in the credits, right?
Gotcha. There's sometimes more to it,
yeah,
like more collaboration.
And the other thing I want to say about all of this is that, like, there are a lot, like, all these people are executive producers on this show. And again, like, what does executive producer mean in Hollywood? Well, I assume it's kind of like a board of governors, kind of. In this case, it's like, these are the people whose names are, attributed to it in a, like, executive kind of fashion, right? So in the corporate world, like, executives, they run a business, right? They're like kind of the head honchos of a business, right? I assume that in Hollywood that's what we're talking about, right? It's like having your name as an executive producer means you're one of the people that is like at the top of this huge production making this happen, right? And it's curious to me that we've got these two guys as showrunners and then a whole bunch of people as executive producers, and I almost wonder if they've got a problem of too many cooks, right? Too many cooks in the kitchen, right? Or too many chefs, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they need more just cooks, right? Or more of them need to be just cooks, and there needs to be just a couple of chefs, right? Anyway, these are extemporaneous thoughts on my part as I'm thinking about all of this and how we attribute these things and what they all mean. But anyway, so I guess I did have a rant. It was just not one I planned on having. Okay. All right. Recap time. So we're going to do this back and forth again, Greta?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right. You want to start off?
Yes. All right. So in this episode...
Let me make this a little bigger so it's easy for us to see. All right. There we go.
So episode 7, The Eye. It opens with Galadriel. Actually, you see an eye. Huh? Yeah, I know. The eye is the first thing you see in this episode. You see Galadriel's eye.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what
That's
I was
good.
trying to say.
I was trying to figure out like why they called it the eye, and I did not get the strong sense from this episode of why they did that. So that's interesting. They called it the eye.
Yeah. Well, it's the first thing you see. You see an eye, and then you realize it's Galadriel's eye.
Yeah.
And it's Galadriel waking up in the devastated Southland village and finds Theo alive.
Isildur and Miriel rescue Valandil, but discover Ontamo dead.
A flaming wreck collapses on Isildur.
The Harfoots discover their destination damaged by the volcano's eruption.
The stranger attempts to heal a tree, but instead causes another problem which almost kills Nori and another young Harfoot.
Elrond fails to convince King Durin to give the elves access to the Mithril mines, and Prince Durin is not happy about it.
Prince Durin breaks the bad news to Disa and Elrond, only to discover the power of Mithril when it brings a dead leaf back to life.
Elendil realizes Isildur may be dead.
Theo and Galadriel converse about the nature of evil and war.
Elendil discovers that Miriel has been blinded by the eruption.
The stranger is sent away toward Greenwood the Great.
We discover that Galadriel was married to Celeborn, but he died.
Elrond and Prince Durin...
Let me just say that again, because I didn't say it quite for the effect that I wanted to. We discover that Galadriel was married to Celeborn, but he died. There we go.
Okay. Good. Elrond and Prince Durin mine and discover a cave of Mithril, only to be discovered by King Durin, who casts Elrond out of Moria.
King Durin and Prince Durin quarrel, and King Durin pulls the prince's necklace from him.
Nori discovers that the stranger has healed the land they are in.
The three Sinisters arrive in the region of the Harfoots, apparently searching for the stranger, and set fire to the Harfoots' encampment.
Elendil releases Beric the horse to roam free and expresses his disdain for Galadriel.
Theo finds Bronwyn and Arondir alive.
Miriel vows to return with another Númenorian force, and Galadriel says the elves will be ready.
Nori, Poppy, Marigold, and Sadak depart to find the stranger.
As the Númenoreans begin their return home, Bronwyn, Arondir, and the Southlanders head to Pelargir, an old Númenorian colony near the mouth of the Anduin.
We find Halbrand is alive, and he and Galadriel set off to... I'm not sure.
Disa comforts Prince Durin.
King Durin tosses the healed leaf into the Mithril cavern, where it floats down a long way and awakens a Balrog, presumably Durin's bane.
Adar changes the name of the Southlands to dun 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 Mordor.
Nice R rolls.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
All right, yeah. So that's the recap of this episode. All right, so I'm gonna, as we've been doing, I'm gonna dive into some thoughts I have, and just kind of exploring a few different areas that we have here. There's some interesting things to discuss. Definitely some very interesting things to discuss in this episode. But let's start off with what's he muttering?
Who's he?
The stranger, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I'm actually quoting one of the Harfoot.
Okay.
One of the Harfoot women,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
What's he muttering? Right, when he's holding, he's doing something to the tree.
On a tree, yeah.
So I looked up some of these words. Some of them I was able to use the subtitles on Amazon Prime to figure out the words, and then go and find the translation by looking up. And I'll link to the word list I used. It's from the site. What is the name of this site? It just says Quenya word lists on it, and I accessed it through the elfdictionary.com, elfdict.com. So. But it's not on that website. It's actually, you have to go to it through another website. So anyway, I'll link to the word list I used. But what is he saying here? So there's a couple of definite things that I was able to figure out. These are from the subtitles on Amazon Prime. So the first one would be en vignata. All right. So that's one that we see that he says.
This is in Quenya?
This is in Quenya.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Assuming these are Quenya words, right? Which I don't know what else they would be, but it makes sense they'd be Quenya words. So in vignata means be healed. So he's saying in vignata, be healed. He says lote na. So I think so lote is flowers, and na is kind of like be, right? Like kind of command. So it's like flowers be, like flower. Right, he's basically telling the tree flower,
okay.
Right?
Like produce fruit.
Like as a command, yeah. Right? Aquita, that's where it gets really intense, and he's like, Aquita, right? And I believe that's and may it be, all right? So for all of y'all who are probably much more experts on Tolkien languages out there, correct me on any of those, or if they need to be tweaked, please do so in the comments. And then one other that's not in the subtitles, but I was able to hear this one, and I think this is what he was saying, is Quivier, which I was really interested by, because the place where the elves originally awoke long ago is Quivienin, right?
Nice.
And so that actually means awaken, right? So he's telling the tree awaken, right?
Did you say what Aquita is?
I'm sorry, it's and may it be, or in other words, like amen, right? He's it's almost like he's praying over this tree. He's praying over this tree, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so Quivier, awaken, in vignata, be healed, lotena, flowers be, aquita, and may it be, right? Or as I would say, amen, right? So, yeah.
I liked that scene. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Good scene. Good scene. Enjoyed the Quenya.
Yeah.
I like the stranger subplot. One of the more interesting subplots for me. Next up, wanted to comment on the elves and this, kind of where we are with this really, I think, major thread of the whole story, and this whole idea that their time has come. It's like this desperate thing that they need. They need the Mithril, right? That they need the Mithril to heal themselves and their presence in Middle Earth, or they're going to perish, or they're basically going to die, right? Now, I get how this is supposed to work, and I don't know. I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about it. I'm not sure that the problem that led the elves to the creation of the rings was this dire, like, like this is like life or death kind of stuff. And when I read back, in Tolkien's own writings about the problem of the elves that led them, to create the rings in the Second Age, it's more from this like idea that they want to preserve. They want to preserve from decay, right? So we got that, right? But it's like, this is like pressing, like they're gonna die, right? Instead of just like the sadness of watching the world slowly decay before your eyes as an immortal being, right? And of all the things that you built up, watching them slowly fall apart over time, right? Again, it feels like it's this thing that hurries the pace of things that aren't meant to be hurried, and of different storytelling devices. The sense of urgency applied to this, I just don't know that it exists in the tale itself. And it just feels a little too on the nose for me. Like I explained this when it first came up a couple episodes ago as being similar to what George Lucas did with The Force and the prequels, where he took this thing that was the Force, which was this really cool, like mysterious idea of this thing that could be channeled, and then he boiled it down to like a question of biology, right? And it's like, man, you robbed it of the mystery of like, of the beauty, like of the mystery of this question, this thing that has kind of an endless ability to probe it, and you put it in like completely sort of modernistic terms, right? It's like, we have need of this thing that will allow us to create this machine, right? That will, we can,
yeah.
And anyway, that's where my mind is. That's where my mind is on all these things. So I'm just not sure that I'm not sure that I really like the way that they're doing this. I feel like it's another thing that's being sort of hurried, and a sense of urgency that's not actually there is being applied to it.
And it makes the elves seem desperate, which I really don't like.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I'm just like, you guys are the freaking children of Iluvatar. Like, I feel like it's it's making them too human or something. I don't know.
And too desperate in the sense of like they just seem super weak all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to being like the immortal, these like the firstborn children of Iluvatar, these immortal beings who create the most beautiful things, like and have this perspective that's greatly different from the perspective that any of us have, because they do live forever.
Exactly. It's like their worldview is the same as everyone else's, and that it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, for me, it's just another thing of like, I just don't feel like they're getting the elves right,
This was, I know you've been talking about that, like on a lot of, you've brought that up before, and I haven't quite felt the same, but I will say after this episode, I'm right there with you. Like, I cannot stand how they're portraying Elrond. Like, I don't like it at all. He's like this wimpy, whiny, like, dude who's just like, he's desperate, you know, like on his knees begging. And I'm like, no, like the dwarves were an accident, right? Yeah. Like, why are you, I'm not saying like treat them like poop, but I'm just saying like, I mean, just don't cower to them, you know, like don't, like, I don't understand. Like, I kind of want them to pull rank.
Yeah.
Because they have it. But I also, and I don't know if this is contradictory or not, but it bugs, like, how the heck did Galadriel survive the full force of that volcanic blast? I mean, the last episode ends with her standing there and all the fire, like rushing toward her.
Well, I guess the answer is that she did know where she was going to go when the volcano blew.
She just rode the wave. Yeah. I mean,
she was familiar enough with the prophecies of that great seer.
I mean, if you can, if you're Jimmy kind, Buffett, I mean, if you're kind, can freaking survive a head-on volcanic blast, like, you don't need to go begging the dwarves to save your race. I'm sorry, you just don't need to.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like, I'm letting this particular part of this whole elf question play out, because I see what they're trying to do and I see how it could connect to the lore. I just, again, it's like it's a question. So many of the things that I like, there's a lot of things that I'm just like, got that completely, or you just completely violated lore. There's other issues that I'm like, okay, this is like a more discretionary question, and like this is a question of like art and good storytelling, and is that really how Tolkien would have done it, right? And I'm just not like, this is one of those things where I'm interested to see where they go with this thread, but I just like, it's not. I'm not feeling like they're getting it right, you know. So we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, you know how I feel about the so it's like so you've got all of the elves except Galadriel are just like boring and weak and just like nothing, just not interesting, right? And don't really like, they seem like kind of caricatures of what Tolkien would have thought an elf was. And then Galadriel is like, it's like they took all of the things that should be like kind of measured out between the rest of the elves and put them all right in her, and just like one powerful bomb of a person, and all she is just a bomb, right? And just everywhere she goes, blow up, blow up, blow up, you know?
Yeah. Agreed.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, okay, so yeah, we'll see how the Mithril subplot plays out. It darkens the heart to call dark deeds good. I know I've given a lot of grief about certain writing, like when like certain these types of little aphorisms or that kind of thing in past episodes, but I liked this line. I did too. I thought it was well written. I'm not sure. I always question, well, maybe I don't remember this one being something that Tolkien himself wrote. It could be, but
I was gonna say, it sounds like something that could be.
But if it's not, then good writing, right? Like that one. It's a really good line by itself. Now here's my problem with it. It's a great line from Galadriel, but why the sudden change of heart about orcs when they just nuked this whole region and killed a bunch of people? Like, all of a sudden she's like, yeah, we really shouldn't, you know. Like last episode, she's like, I'm gonna hunt every one of you down and kill you personally myself, right? You're like, dang, girl, you don't like orcs, right? She hates these orcs, right? And then all of a sudden she's like, now Theo, we shouldn't feel that way. Now I know how it can be. Like, there are times when I'm really mad about something and I'm like, rrr, and then you like, a few minutes later you're like, oh, I need to like tone it. Like, I really lost it right there, right?
Yeah.
For a minute there, I lost myself. But Galadriel has like just been mad the whole time, and then all of a sudden, after they blow everything up, she's like, well, don't be so vengeful, Theo. You know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe, I mean, okay, good. Galadriel, you're finally turning things around, but it took the volcano nuking the whole region to do that for you, I guess.
It seems like odd timing, for sure.
Yeah, it does. That's my point. My point. Oh, and then we get to this. Finally, Celeborn. All right. First of all, before I say what I'm going to say about Celeborn, the dancing story here that Galadriel gives, this is from Tolkien's own life story. This is the dancing in the glade, right? In the forest glade. That was an image that Tolkien himself recounted of when he was home from war, or he was about to go off to war, and he was with Edith, his wife, and they were young, and she was dancing in a hemlock glade, right? And that was the inspiration for the story of Beren and Luthien, right? So this little bit is actually something that comes from Tolkien's life story, and is just kind of transposed over onto Galadriel and Celeborn here. So anyway, nice touch. Yeah. All right, so Celeborn. So we find out that she was married to Celeborn, but he died.
Did she actually say that he died? I was trying to remember. Yeah. She does say that. Okay. Because the last thing I remember was that she said that he went off to war and then he never saw him again. She never saw him again.
No. I'm almost positive she said he died.
Okay. I'm not saying that he didn't. I just couldn't.
Well, I mean, correct. Listeners, correct me if I'm wrong, but I
feel like
I would have picked up on that nuance if she had said that, right? I'm almost positive, because she speaks about Finrod, her brother, being dead, and then she speaks about and her husband, right, being dead, right? So Celeborn. And she names him Celeborn.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
All right. Here's the issues. We know that Celeborn is either alive or he's going to be reincarnated or resurrected, right? Because why? Because he's alive at the end of the Third Age in Lothlorien, and like for them not to allow for that is crazy. It's a crazy thought, right? Why would they? Like that would just be, I mean, all the lore violations are unacceptable to me, but that would be like, whoa, like they just don't care, right? And furthermore, they're supposed to have a daughter by now, right? So where we are, if the timeline even means anything, right, then we are close to the end of the Second Age, right? By now, their daughter should be a fully grown elf herself, right? And this is the woman that will be Elrond's wife, right? It's just hard. Like, I just don't know what they're doing with the timeline, right? It's timeline compression, it's timeline scrambling, just putting it all in a blender and, making it come out like a pancake or something like that. I don't know, like a
smoothie,
like a not smoothie, because there's a lot of chunks. There's a lot of chunks in there that you're kind of I'm not sure what this is.
Chunks and pancakes,
huh?
There's no chunks and pancakes.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, we'll go with the smoothie, but just chunky smoothie.
Chunky smoothie.
There's a contradiction in terms there, right? Yeah, I'm not sure what that chunk was. That's how I feel about a lot of these things. So maybe smoothie. Yeah, smoothie. I like smoothie. All right, chunky smoothie.
Chunky smoothie. Smoothie made in a non-high powered blender. How about that?
So, and because it sounds like she's saying that he died in the First Age, right? When she's talking about him like putting on his armor and he looks like a steel clam, I think is what she calls him.
Says, yeah.
And that's all cute and everything, and then it's like he died. He went off and died in this battle. So this must have been a First Age battle, because I thought like there weren't battles going on in the second. It's just all this. It's all this confusion about the timeline. Like why is it so hard? Why is it like impossible to respect the timeline that Tolkien himself laid out? I truly don't get it. And if the excuse seems to be because TV, and because most people don't have any kind of attention span to follow anything like that, right? And I think that's such a like cynical way to view your audience, and way to view Tolkien's works, that you can just kind of put this all in a blender and do with it what you will, right?
Yeah. It's disrespectful.
It's just highly disappointing.
Yeah.
So Celeborn, he does exist, but he's dead, but probably not, because he has to come back into the picture somehow, or none of this makes any sense, right? Which makes me say two things. Maybe he's an orc now, but will be redeemed. So we could see that coming along. So maybe he like got captured and she thought he was dead, but he's been, he got turned into an orc or something like that, and he's going to be redeemed, right? Okay. Maybe he is Halbrand and just in disguise, and he's going to one day be like, surprise! Right? And he's going to like, his ears are going to get pointy all of a sudden, right? Sorry. That was spontaneous.
That crossed
thought.
The line.
All right. And then the third one is love triangle incoming. Yeah.
I do love me a good love triangle.
Well, yeah.
But I don't know how. You guys already know how we feel about Halbrand and Galadriel. So this is not going to be a good love triangle if that's indeed what they're setting us up for.
Bizarre love triangle. You know that song?
Oh, by who's it by?
I'm not sure. It's an 80s song. Is it New Order? I think it's New Order.
I was gonna say. I thought it was. I was gonna say.
Every time I see you falling, I get down on my knees and pray. Yeah. Waiting for the final moment. Hey, this is like the jazz version. All right. Okay.
This wouldn't do justice to that song, though.
No. Well. So
that was stupid.
The rumor has been that we'll see Celeborn in season 2, so I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. Okay, but
all right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hate it when people come back from the dead that like really have no business coming back from the dead. It just makes me crazy.
It is, and
He's not a superhero, okay?
Well, I will say this. So there is precedent in terms of like Gandalf coming back from,
Oh, so Celeborn is a Maiar now?
Let me finish my thought. I'm not necessarily defending them, but let me kind of flesh it all out, okay? Gandalf does, he's given life again, right? And it's a gift given to him. So yes, he is a Maiar, but he is kind of resurrected, right?
Yeah, no, he is.
And elves, there actually is like discussion of them there being such a thing as like reincarnation. And if memory serves, Finrod is actually reincarnated in the Blessed Realm, right? I believe it's Finrod. I'm just thinking of this
to me.
Yeah, so in the Tolkienian lore, and actually in the Nature of Middle Earth, this book that came out last year that was edited by Carl Hostetter. It's actually there's a section in there on elvish reincarnation, and there's other writings about elvish reincarnation elsewhere. So it was an idea because they are immortal beings, right? That they could be granted reincarnation, literally, to be put back into a body, right?
I did not realize that. Okay, so, all right. Well, maybe it'll work. Maybe.
Yeah, it could work, right? So it could kind of work in accord with the lore. My thing is like, at this point, they should have she and Celeborn should at least have a daughter, right? That is in the picture, and we haven't heard anything about her yet. And I'm just kind of like we're almost all the way through the first season, and this is the first we're hearing about this. It's like, okay, I thought she was just mad because of Finrod, but it turns out she's mad because of Finrod and Celeborn, right? It almost makes me wonder, like, were people like the first couple of episodes were they like, where the heck is where the heck is Celeborn? Yeah. And then they like go back real quick and they like edit season 7 or episode 7 in secret so that she drops this line about Celeborn.
That same thought like occurred to me too. I was like, I wonder if they just got caught so much flack that they had to go back in and name drop somehow. I don't know. Yeah. And it's not like this daughter is like not an important person. Like she is, right? I mean, she's gonna be Elrond's wife, and
Arwen's mother.
Yeah, and Arwen's mother. So it's like, yeah.
By the way, let me get her name again because is it Galadriel?
I can't keep all the names straight.
Let me get this right before we move on. So it is Galadriel. Yeah, so Galadriel is the daughter of Galadriel and Celeborn, and best estimates are that she was born early in the Second Age, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there you go. Right. Okay. So that's the whole the Celeborn controversy. All right. Mm-hmm. Elendil, all of a sudden, he's not so happy with Galadriel. Yeah. So, all right. This is another one of those things where it's like what I was upset about with Galadriel and her sudden change of heart about orcs with Theo, right? Elendil, all of a sudden he's not happy with Galadriel. What's going on with this? So I get that he's grieving at the loss of Isildur because he believes that Isildur is dead at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Isildur's not dead, right? Isildur can't be dead.
He can't be dead.
Because he's supposed to play this really important role, which is which we all know from if you've read Lord of the Rings and you've seen the movies, like the story of Isildur, right? So I get that he's grieving the loss of Isildur and he thinks he's dead. But you go into battle knowing that people can die, right? Like knowing you could die, that the people you're going into battle with can die. Elendil knew that Isildur was going into battle with them. So what did Galadriel do? That was like, did she lie to them? Like, what is he upset about now? Like, why is he upset with Galadriel at this point?
Well, maybe that's another mystery we need to add to our list. Or also maybe he's just really annoyed with her like the rest of us are. Maybe he's just had enough.
Maybe this is a meta commentary on Galadriel.
Yeah, maybe. I'm like, dude, I feel you. I've been done with Galadriel for the last 2 episodes, so I'm right there with you.
I've kind of been knowing Galadriel since episode 1, but anyway, it's another issue I have with the writing. It's like all of a sudden he's mad. So let's just assume for a second that let's just put ourselves within the universe itself. if Galadriel had led them there under false pretenses or something along those lines, right? Then I can see how he would be upset, right?
Well, they didn't accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, right?
Say what?
They did not accomplish. Maybe he feels like she didn't follow through, right? I mean, they went to Middle Earth to retake the Southlands, right?
Yeah.
And instead, he's lost Isildur and everything's been destroyed. So maybe he's like, this is pointless. And sorry, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but at one point they talk about a second attack, right?
Yeah.
Númenor coming back. Had that conversation happened yet or not? Okay.
No.
So it doesn't have anything to do with that. All right.
No.
So.
No, and I truly don't understand, like, if we try to get inside Elendil's head here, right? Like, what's he...
It seems like a really quick character change.
Exactly. And it's unaccountable,
yeah.
right? Other than just the idea that he's grieving the loss of his soul, which could, which is a strong thing. I understand. It's like his son, he thinks he's dead because they came to this battle and everything. But I just don't, I don't think that's a solid character, creation when you're talking about this guy who is, he's a leader of, this Númenorian force. He knows that his son can could die, right? He knows he could die. Any one of the people coming along with him could die in this battle. Right?
Yeah.
And
maybe there's more to it.
I can understand that he's unhappy, that he's grieving that. But why is this all of a sudden attributed to Galadriel, right? I don't know. I mean, grief can make us do strange things. It's just I don't feel like it's I don't feel like it's good writing.
Yeah, it seemed very sudden.
We don't see into what happened, why he's all of a sudden hating Galadriel when he was her biggest fan before.
Yeah, and it seemed like his whole demeanor changed too. He just did a total 180, just in how he related to everybody. And like you said, grief, is real and it does things to you. But yeah, I did not like that sudden switch in Elendil.
Yeah. So, it just didn't really make sense to me.
Yeah,
I guess is
all.
It
was a little confusing.
Yeah. Okay.
Made me raise an eyebrow.
Ar and Zilidun, I don't really have much to say about that. Just that, that's what Muriel refers to her father as, is Ar and Zilidun, otherwise known as Tar Palantir. I did kind of raise an eyebrow at that, but
I was wondering what that was about.
But that's his. So the kings of Númenor, in the later ages, when they took a name Tar. So Tar Palantir, right? So Tar Palantir is the Quenya version of his Quenya king name, right? Okay. And it's supposed to be this thing of their legacy is the friends of the elves, right? But in later times they started taking names in the Andunaic, which is the native language of Númenor, and it was kind of to spite the elves, right? And to spite that heritage, right? So it's kind of Ar and Zilidun, right? Is the not a fan of the elves version. It's the Andunaic. It's here's our native language instead of using Quenya, right, for our languages, right?
I see. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
So it's she refers to that name. She is the daughter of Ar and Zilidun, which I thought was an interesting touch because it might be this indication of breaking from I don't know, but then again she's but she's making an alliance with Galadriel, for further combat along with the elves when they return. So it's just not, I'm not sure how her using that name as opposed to Tar Palantir, makes a lot of sense here. But anyway, that's what it is. That's what Ar and Zilidun is. Halbrand is king. We didn't see a lot of Halbrand in this episode until the very end.
He apparently makes a miraculous recovery, though.
Well, he does, because he's laying there
I know,
he's
dying.
He's septic. Right?
Yeah, he looked terrible.
You're a nurse. You tell me about sepsis all the time. Yeah. It sounds awful.
So we talk about it every night.
Well, no,
we'll just sit down and have a drink and be like, "Hey, John, you want to the latest about sepsis?"
Let's talk about sepsis. So, sorry, you know what I mean.
It just sounded so weird.
Well, we do. I like not all the time, but like, but we talked about it. Like, you know, it's an interesting idea to me that like people will develop an infection that like gets into their bloodstream and they get really sick.
Yeah. No, he looked terrible. Like he was on death's door.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like walking out of the camp, like like jumping up onto a horse and riding into the sunset with Galadriel. And I was like,
it was that elvish medicine which we didn't see applied.
Well, isn't that where they're going? Aren't they going to get the elvish medicine?
Well,
I don't think he's gotten it yet.
Is that what they're doing?
I think so. Because she says this wound requires elvish medicine, and then she says, "Can he ride?" And then all of a sudden he like jumps out of bed and clicks his heels and is like, "Let's go, baby."
I was just so confused by all of that. I watched that scene like 3 or 4 times.
It was just Galadriel's voice.
Was love.
It was love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was so cheesy. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So they're going to get medicine. But I don't even know that he needs it anymore because he was healed by Galadriel's presence, apparently.
Well, yeah. Sure.
We're at a loss, guys.
I just thought it was kind of funny because like Arondir is there with him, and then Galadriel walks in and she's like, he needs elvish medicine, and
I know, and then Arondir's right there.
He's like,
who's already healed Bronwyn, right?
He's like, Arondir's like, oh yeah, I'm an elf, I can do that. It's like, come on, Arondir, like come on, give him the good stuff, right?
Maybe he used it all on Bronwyn though. Yeah. Maybe he was out.
Maybe he's like, I don't know about this Halbrand guy. I'm not sure I want him to get better. And then Galadriel shows up and he's like, okay, all right. Yeah. Halbrand just seems kind of sus. But I just want to say, like, man, they love this guy, right? They love Halbrand in the Southlands. It makes me want to show up somewhere and just be like, hey, I'm the king, baby, right? And everybody's going to love you, right? Because that's how easy it is. Apparently, all you need is just to have the right symbol, and
he's done nothing.
Yeah,
like he's done absolutely nothing to endear himself to them. Yeah. It's again hurried, like incredibly hurried.
There's nothing about like any legacy he has, like the actual like we don't know anything about the claim he has, right? And I never saw where the Southlanders saw it either. So you might say like, well, Aragorn does kind of the same thing, and it's like, well, Aragorn can prove who he is. He can prove by his descent from the kings of Arnor. Like, they know that he's coming, but we have nothing of that context to provide other than just something we briefly saw in Númenor.
Yeah, there's something
right?
like hanging.
Several episodes ago.
No,
right?
There was something hanging on his belt.
And there's something hanging on his belt, but I'm like, is that all it takes?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Because he probably could have killed somebody and gotten that from them.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Which may be what we find out happens. But it's like, I mean, it's okay to be a little skeptical of somebody who shows up and says, I'm your rightful king, right?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, a little bit? Like, can we have a little bit of skepticism? Like, healthy skepticism, right?
It takes too long, Johnny. Got to move along the story.
Yeah, well, you answered my next question, I guess. Where is Galadriel off to?
Well,
yeah.
Also gave us an opportunity to use our new favorite couple name, Galadriel. Well, they're off to get elvish medicine because Arondir ran out of it. Or he didn't want to give it to Halbrand, whatever. I don't know. Maybe that's all. They're going off to get elvish medicine. I don't know.
Give me some of that elvish medicine. Oh yeah. All right.
Maybe they're going to get what's that drink? Maybe they just need some limbus or what is it? Not limbus.
Limbus is the bread.
Limbus, but what's the drink? They have that drink that they you know what I'm talking about. Sorry, I've gotten you all off kilter, haven't I?
Yeah. No, it's not you. It's the show. Like,
yeah,
it's the quality of the writing that's gotten me all off kilter. I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name of the drink.
Yeah,
the elvish beverage.
Well, they just whatever this. I mean, medicine could be anything, but
yeah,
they're going off to get him healed.
Yeah,
but he seems fine now, so I don't know what that's all about.
All right, so the Mordor reveal. Okay,
that was so stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And also, I was watching it on the iPad, and I couldn't even see the whole word. Like,
oh, did you zoomed in?
I just saw the... Huh?
You zoomed in.
Oh, is that what happened?
You made it... You probably pressed the full screen thing.
Oh, I did press the full...
That just changes the aspect of it, so it cuts off the sides.
So it was my fault. But, like, first they had... Like, all I could see was, like, lands. And I was like, what? And then I saw Mordor. And I was like, what's
Oh,
I was
gosh.
so confused. And I was like, oh, the Southlands are becoming Mordor?
Flan. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was Flans and Ordor. And I was like,
Flans and Ardor.
Ardor.
Yeah.
Mordor?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like that. That was terrible. That was terrible.
Yeah, well, he looks up. I'm like, how hard would it be just to have Adar say it, right?
Yeah, that would have been way
I shall call
better.
this land Mordor. Like instead of like the Southlands, scratch. Mordor.
Southlands, a.k.a. Mordor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but that's how they did it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Doran's Bane. All right. He's got sensitive hearing. All right. He's trying to sleep, and he's a Maiar, so he's got really sensitive hearing. Just wants to take a nap, and they got to be dropping leaves into his cave, right? I mean, you'd be mad too.
The nerve. I would be mad too if I was trying to take a nap and someone came in and dropped a leaf in my room.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd be like, rawr.
Yeah.
And breathe some fire. Okay, here's the deal. Doran's Bane isn't supposed to awaken until the Third Age, 1980. So like at least 2,000 years from now, per Lord of the Rings. But I guess he awakens earlier, or they just wanted to show Doran's Bane and they're not going to show him again because they're going to respect the lore.
There's a lot of fire in this episode. I was kind of over all the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked though you made me think when I was trying to figure out the whole eye thing, and like had the connection to the eye, and it was really great that you started with the thing with Galadriel opening her eyes. So I liked that, and then I realized like Mariel being blind, not having so that refers to the eyes.
Is that consistent with the lore? Does she ever become blind?
No,
not
that I know of.
Okay.
So yeah, no blind. I mean, she's not talked about a whole lot in the lore, right? She's mentioned a couple of times in passing, but she's really not like a major character in any way.
Yeah.
Farazone is much more of a major character in this time period. Elendil is much more of a major character.
Several episodes.
Couple episodes. Who knows what he's up to? That guy is up to.
Probably no good.
Not the guy I'd leave behind in charge of my kingdom if I was the Queen Regent.
Def not.
You're gonna come home and find that your father, my lady, your father died while you were gone. It was quite a mystery. You have no idea how it happened. Probably old age, right? And I've been ruling ever since in your stead. Yeah. So, all right. Well, so Doran's Bane.
Oh, we're talking about the eye.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say about the eye was like the end where it has like Mount Doom, I guess, at the end too. Like it kind of made when I first saw the title of the episode, it made me think of like the Eye of Sauron.
Yeah.
Right. So it ends with the volcano, which is kind of like an eye, the top crater. I don't know.
Yeah.
So. Well,
the eye. So we've got one other thing I'll say about the eye is that the three Sinisters, right? The three Sinister sisters.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The staff that they're carrying around has an eye, like the icon on top of it is the eye. So it makes me think there's some kind of like they work for Sauron, right? And so it makes me wonder, like they're off searching for the stranger. Could the stranger be like Sauron, but he's forgotten he's Sauron, right? And and so they're searching for him to maybe remind him that he's Sauron, right? Because Sauron, he can do good things, like he is powerful, and he's struggling with this: who am I? Like, kind of, am I good or am I bad? Right? Not remembering exactly who he is, so I don't know.
Yeah,
the stranger is a suspicious character. We want to feel like he's good. He gives off very Gandalfish vibes.
Mm-hmm.
But we just don't know. We don't know what the deal with him is at this point. And Adar, who is he, right? Is he actually Sauron? Is it one of these deals where it's like, I killed Sauron in the sense of like, I killed, because in the original Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi says that Darth Vader betrayed and murdered Luke's father. And what it turns out he means by that is that Darth Vader, became Darth Vader because he was Luke's father and
he killed that
and
part
became
of
bad,
him.
right? He killed that part of him, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that could be. That could be.
So we've got Halbrand. Halbrand just there's just something completely sus about that. We just don't know. We just don't know anything about his background, right? Know anything about who he truly is. Theo, still no indication of who his father is, but we know that's a suspicious question. And we know that it hasn't been called Mount Doom for us at this point, but we're pretty sure it is Mount Doom.
Yeah.
And then who are these three Sinister sisters? Who do they really work for? That's another big mystery that we're wrestling with. So,
well, they're clearly bad.
Yeah.
Right? Because they burn the Harfoots.
Yeah.
Camp, which is stupid.
And is this Durin's Bane that we're seeing in the Balrog at the end there?
Sure, looked like him.
Well, it does. It definitely looks like him, but
could be his predecessor.
Could it be another Balrog? Yeah. So we don't know. We don't know. Well, any other topics of interest from this episode, Greta?
I just want to say I like how Poppy is always singing.
Yeah.
I really liked.
A lot of Harfoot action in this episode.
We didn't really talk about it, but I enjoyed that.
Okay.
I enjoyed the Harfoots.
Yeah.
I always enjoy the Harfoots.
Yeah. The Harfoots are nice. They're off on there's 4 of them off on a little journey.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where that leads. Oh, that was my question. So like the sisters start to go one way and then Nori's like, wait, you're going the wrong way. She was just like lying to them.
I
right?
think, I'm almost positive she was. Yeah.
Because then they went in the other way.
Yeah.
So they were just she was trying to get them off his trail, I guess. Okay.
Right.
All right.
And by the way, they mentioned that they sent the stranger off to Greenwood the Great, which is that, so it's this foresty region right there, right? Which is later Mirkwood, right? So in The Hobbit, it's Mirkwood, right? Where they journey through on their way to they journey through Mirkwood in The Hobbit on their way to the Lonely Mountain, right? And that's where they get attacked by the spiders and everything like that. It's in the northern part of Mirkwood. Mirkwood gets changed to Mirkwood. It is Greenwood the Great. It gets changed to Mirkwood because Sauron sets up camp there in Dol Guldur, which is in the southern part of Greenwood the Great, and he kind of spreads all this bad stuff through the forest, so it becomes Mirkwood at that point. So they are kind of heading in the direction of Dol Guldur, which is a place where we know that Sauron later will have some dominion, right? So
okay.
Then the stranger's heading there too. So anyway, maybe the stranger is Sauron. I don't know. We shall see.
So there's one more episode, right, in this season? One more episode
to go in this season. All right. So. All right, let's reveal our scores.
Paper, scissors it.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Oh, you win. Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Any guesses on my score?
I think it's gonna be similar to your last one.
You're right. It's exactly the same score.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just said 5 out of 10. I'm kind of stuck at a 5. I'm interested to see how a lot of the mysteries work out, but I'm just so confused by the liberties with the timeline and the lore. And the portrayal of the Númenoreans and the elves continues to be a major disappointment for me. The attention to narrative detail that should be there is not. But I'm looking forward to the season finale and seeing where these cliffhangers, what cliffhangers they give us, and what mysteries are resolved and what mysteries aren't resolved. So that's where I'm at.
Okay,
that's
good. I think I was kind of between two, but I'll give it a 4.
4.
Yeah, I was between 3 and 4. I did enjoy this episode more than the last one. There was there's Harfoots and dwarves both.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked I'll be honest, I kind of liked that Prince Doran chose friends over family. Like, I kind of like that he went against his father's. Like, I kind of loved that portrayal of his and Elrond's friendship. I thought that was really, really touching. And again, I like Poppy's singing, but yeah, I think that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a 4 is actually generous now that I'm talking about it, but
well,
it's a 4 for the Harfoots and the dwarves.
There you go. All right, let us know what your score was for this episode in the comments below. What did you all think? Any other things you'd like to discuss? Let's talk about it in the comments. All right. So, subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes or the platform of your choice. If you are a 5-star fan of the Tolkien Road, you can really help us out by heading over to iTunes or your preferred source for the show and dropping us a rating and review. When you do that, it helps get the word out about the Tolkien Road, which helps us to keep on evering on. Drop us a line wherever you can find us, and we'll do our best to respond to you somehow and at some point. So thank you to our amazing patrons, especially the following: John R.,
Kaitlyn of Tea with Tolkien,
Jacob Lockham,
John H.,
Scotchy Bobo,
Ms. Anonymous,
Andrew T.,
Red Hawk,
Shannon S.,
Brian O.,
Emilio P.,
Zeke F.,
James A.,
James L.,
Chris L.,
Chuck F.,
Azia V.,
Ish of the Hammer,
Teresa C.,
David of Pints with Jack,
Jonathan D.,
Eric B.,
Johanna T.,
Mike M.,
Robert H.,
Paul D.,
Julia,
War T.,
Matthew W.,
Joe Bigelman,
Chris K.,
Jacob S.,
Richard K.,
Matt R.,
Garrett P.,
John W.,
Eugene D.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all so much, and a shout out to those celebrating their Patreon anniversary this month in October of 2022, Red Hawk and Alex S.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much, and thanks to everybody for watching and or listening. We will talk at you next time.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.